Hello everybody and welcome to Amateur Hour with Drawn. I'm your host, Drawn Narration. This is my first official video, so I apologize if I'm stumbling over and everything besides my intro vid. Whoever wants to look at that as well, it's just basically my introduction here on YouTube. So this is my very first official video. As you probably see in the title, it's called Amateur Hour. This is where I use a specific tool in any type of program I might be using. In this case, I am using ArtRage, which is a software that comes with buying a Wacom tablet. The drawing tablets you can get. Mine, I just got the small pen and touch stylus myself. So nothing really fancy, just got a small drawing tablets, little digital graphic, little fun stuff like that. So, like I said, this is ArtRage, the software that I'm using, and unfortunately it looks like my recording didn't get all the tools, so I'll post a couple of quick pics about the settings I'm using before we actually get into the tool itself, and show you guys how I get certain effects for using this tool, and hopefully we'll be able to go through this journey together and making ourselves better artists in the long run. I will inform you right away, this is not a drawing tutorial on how to work with or how to make photos like this. This is just my experimentations and my observations about using certain tools and getting the effects that will help other artists as well kind of have an idea what they're getting into when using these specific softwares. Right now, I only have ArtRage to use as a lot of my digital arts right now. The other one is called Autodesk that also came with a Wacom drawing tablet. So, and I don't use that very often, but I will be willing to go through and experiment with it a little bit more if a lot of people ask for it, or if anyone asks for it, really. Like I said, this is just amateur hour. This is where I test out and you guys ask questions or you give suggestions of what you want to see in the next video. Hopefully, I apologize about how awkward this is. This is my very first video on YouTube other than my intro vid, so hopefully you guys will be very gentle with me. It is my first time. Alright. I'll give out the settings, a couple of screenshots for the settings of what I use on the tool that I'll be using pretty quickly. And in this episode, we're going to be using the Watercolor Tool. Now, it's not as good as Photoshop, and yes, I have used Photoshop before in high school, and I wish I could go back to that class. It was so much fun. One of the major issues that I come with getting through on ArtRage is the fact that it's not very good with blending if you're an amateur like me. If you know the tools itself, that will help you in the long run, but so since that's what I'm going to do in this case, you guys will be able to ask questions. In the next videos I might post, I'll be able to answer it during little sketches like this or whatever comes to mind at that point. About to the end of the final sketch, so don't hesitate to leave comments or any suggestions for next video or what you actually want to see as what I can draw for you guys to test out. Any techniques you guys think of, don't hesitate to give it over, okay? Alright, at this moment I'll probably go ahead post-op and add the settings right here that I use for the watercolor tool as well as what you should be expecting and everything else that's going to be used in the ArtRage Studio today. Alright, so we're getting to the point where I'm going to start with the watercolor tool. At this moment, here's the settings I used during that. Now, one thing I will tell you is that I forewent with the, I think at this moment I haven't added the auto clean for the watercolor tool, auto clean just lets you keep on using a single color. It doesn't let you do any blending as of yet. Later on, I will add the auto clean later whenever I start adding more colors to everything. But as of right now, I'm just getting the flesh tone through. I also made sure that it was the wet paper as well. The paper wet, sorry. And Insta-Dry has to be off in this case because the Insta-Dry kind of doesn't let any blending go through when I did some experimentation myself. Now, when dealing with watercolor, you don't really want any clean edges because, and this is also a really good tool to have all the colors done on one layer. Because each color kind of blends into the next one, as you will see later on when I start working with her eyes, her hair, and even her clothes. But at this point, it's, like I said, it's really good to have all the colors on one layer in regards to watercolor. If you want a more cleaner look, then yeah, that's when you'll go ahead and add more layers, and then you can do each color separately. But in this case, I tested it out on doing it all on just one layer. And I think it actually turned out pretty decent. And typically I don't like the watercolor tool because of how easy it is to blend and get one color accent on the other if you're looking for a rather clean look in regards to colors. But this one actually surprised me. And especially whenever I get to working with the hair, it really blended well with the skin tone. And of course I chose the darker colors with the hair and the eyes, as you'll notice later on. Right now I'm just kind of finicking around with the skin tones and making it better, and I should be going to the eyes right now. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, as you can see, I just add a little bit of white to it, and you can see how well it makes the skin tone blend and makes it a more natural look. Not very, very cut off, more lines of smooth edges rather than clean, clinical edges. And I actually enjoyed that feature of this, so I'm very glad that I didn't erase any lines yet, or in fact any of the skin tone that I did. And here we go on the actual color in the eyes. Now, when I first got into it, I didn't think of what I wanted with the eye color. I just started blending in some browns, some oranges, and later on even almost a gold color later on, and turned out into a color that I've never even thought of or thought about trying to do. And that's one thing about watercolor that's really good at doing, is that you can take a whole bunch of colors and blend them in really well. You get a new color they never thought of, and that's why you want to keep all the coloring on one layer when regards to watercolor. It's rather decent. So at this point I'm just adding a little bit extra dimension, and you can actually see how the skin tone is blending in with the brown colors I'm putting for her actual eyes, as well as the white that I added is blending into the pupils as well. Now I'm just trying to get some more dimension shading. And that's where everything gets a little iffy whenever you go try to shade in, because it's hard to really make points with this watercolor tool. At least it was in my experience. So I just decided to blend it all in together, and I probably went back with the ink tool, the pen tool, and added a couple of black spots for the actual pupil itself, and then added a white for a highlight. As you can see there, yeah, makes a nice additional to it, in my opinion. And I like how her eyes went out, and I don't normally get good eyes with the watercolor tool, so this one I was actually very impressed. Okay, now I'm getting into the hair, and you'll start to see what I meant earlier about how it blended so well with the skin tone that I used. So, and it actually created highlights for me that I didn't have to go through already. And this is also where I started using the auto clean part of the setting in the Watercolor Tool. This is where I could just keep on using the same color over and over again, and that way I don't have to go through and try to blend everything before getting a new color in. So at this point, yeah, I mean, as you can see, the skin tone really works as a good highlight for it, and it also, the color brown that I used made it as a good shadow for the places that I couldn't reach with the shadow skin tone that I did earlier. So I actually like the effect that this created whenever I added the brown to the skin tone. I mean, yeah, it made it a little hard for getting the right amount of shading in the hair right there, especially in the bangs, because there was so much skin tone right there. But I think it added more dimension to the bangs as well. I mean, you can tell that adds more lights. Whenever in my personal experience, I never had very much luck in shading hair. I think this is one of the best I've done so far with this. So I actually found myself very impressed while I was going through this. And like I said earlier, with watercolor, you don't want to worry about clean lines right now, or at least not ever really. Because you can just leave it like that, and it still looks good because it's watercolor. It's supposed to be able to be splotchy, and a lot of the times it doesn't necessarily have to be clean. And I wonder how many times I've said that in this video. Okay, so the head's mostly done. I'm just going through trying to add some more shadow to, especially in the back there, because I'm trying to add some more dimension to it. And another thing about watercolor is that you can use a lot of the same colors for added effects, like the brown I used in the hair, I also used for shading as well on the skin tone. And I believe I'm adding a gold that I used in the eyes to add some highlights to it and added texture to the hair. As you can see right there, just kind of like a nice golden glow almost. And you can not really tell that I use the same colors as well, because the way that watercolor is done, each blending of it can cause a new shade of that color to go through. So that way her hair looks more vibrant than her eyes, and, well, at least in my opinion does. I mean, for you guys it might be something different instead. Okay, we should be getting to the shirt pretty soon, and here we go. Okay, I started off with a green, but I just went ahead and took off, but when I went through myself, it kind of made a wrong blending with the skin tone, so I went back, cleaned it all up, and went for this nice turquoise color, and I do love colors like that. It wasn't until later that I realized how much a Jasmine top I just did, Jasmine from Disney. And I swear to you, it was not on purpose, but hey, it was a really nice color, and the top just came out like that. Now this is still all on one layer, so sometimes you might see my skin tones blurring into the turquoise at the top. Now I'm adding some more shading to it, and it's not the same color as you can see. It's definitely more of a darker blue, or along that lines. But I find that doing wild ranges like that, a nice sea green turquoise mixed with a darker blue, it makes very nice subtle shading, amazingly enough. It kind of reminds me of, like, you know, in a lot of animes, they kind of have the blushes that are very, very soft looking. So that's what I really liked about what happened here whenever I'm blending through, and And yes, it is rather difficult to do a lot of the blendings here, at least in a way that makes the shading appropriate. So I just kind of did it more as a texture thing. And I'm doing it at the shoulders too, just to add a little bit more dimension. Not really for shading, but you know, those nice soft gradual shadings that you can see a lot of t-shirts nowadays, especially like the tie-dyes and whatnot. That's what I really liked about this. It was very easy to do some soft gradual shading. Now, whenever you want to do these techniques right here, I found it best to keep the auto clean turned on the ArtRage settings for the watercolor tool. That way, you don't have to keep on tapping the little glass icon they have in the bottom to be able to add more color to something when you want to do more expressive shading. But whenever you're blending, especially whenever the auto clean is off, you want to make sure that you keep the tool on there first and just do whatever blending you want before tapping again to add more color to it. At least that's what I found in my experience. At this point, we're almost actually at the wrapping up. And as you can see, I added the purple there as a nice added highlight. I mean, it was kind of a last minute thing I did there, but I liked the way that the purple blended into that soft turquoise and blue color there, so I just kept it that way. I'm not sure because it's shading, but just the way it looked for me, that I really liked it. Okay, so I cleaned it up a little bit of a time skip for you guys, but right now we're getting into the background. So I like the way of complementary colors put together, so I'll have orange, and later on I'll put some blue in there as well. But at this point, just add a little bit of an orange, oval, whatnot have you, around her. But I don't want to fill the entire thing. And I add some more darker to it just around her to add a little bit more, makes it pop out a little bit more in my personal opinion. And I still have the auto clean turned off, and I have it mostly turned on this entire time. Actually, it is on right now, right? Okay, sorry. It's just this recording, they lost a lot of the tools. You can't see the layers that I did, or the actual settings that I kept on adjusting throughout. Another setting on the Watercolor tool that you'll probably see that I won't mention is the thinners. I didn't use it in this one, but typically I don't like the thinner setting on this because it makes everything wash out. So as a main piece like this, I don't put the thinners on just because it will show the background itself and not let a picture like this pop out if I have the thinners on. So typically I keep that setting at 0% because I don't like to use the thinners myself. So now that you can see the blue blended into the orange in the background, kind of made a nice subtle shading of purple. So I actually enjoyed the way it turned out. When I first went through, it kind of looked like a bit of a cheetah print, so I just kept on going through until it was more of a smudge. So this is actually about the end of the video, so this is my experimentation with the watercolor tool, and I hope this helps out other amateur artists like myself to get a better idea how to use the tools and some of the basic softwares that are provided now. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Thank you so much for coming to Amateur Hour with Drawn. I hope you guys have a splendid day, and I'll see you all in the next video.